Without the description of a man in all black wearing a ski mask in the middle of the kitchen, would this whole case just fall apart? What we have in this case is unprecedented. These two surviving roommates, that's never been done before. People don't leave two surviving roommates in this house, one seeing him. It doesn't make any sense, right? These two surviving roommates hold the key to everything. The timeline, the description, how the intruder got in, everything is based on what these two people said. So, looking at their statements, dissecting their statements, I think is super important. And no, we're not saying that they did anything. We're not doing any of that. We're just looking at what they've said, because it's important for this timeline. In this video, I'm breaking down everything that was said and the multiple contradictions and pretty much everything about the surviving roommates so that we can get to the bottom of what happened here. There's a lot of players in this case, but the two surviving roommates hold a lot of keys, and that is Dylan and Bethany. Invited over that next morning to look into the house was Hunter and his girlfriend Emily. There's Jack, who is Kaylee's ex and who shared Murphy with her. And then Maddie's ex, Jake, that lived in Boise, Idaho, and had little to no opportunity to do this, but is still a big player in the story. Public has not seen everything, but what we have seen is two big things. First of all, the body cam footage from outside the King Road house the next morning. There's also the full transcript and video online of Bethany giving her statement that day. These two things are huge pieces of evidence in this case. Let's talk about Dylan's statements first. So when Dylan came down to Bethany's room, she told Bethany that this intruder had a big nose and was white, and that is really all she remembered. Now, that big nose doesn't come in again at all, and she says she doesn't remember even saying that. So let's scratch that. The next big statements that we get is from that body cam footage from the police that were first on the scene that morning and the first interviews of Dylan. So let's talk about that. She states that she heard Xana scream and then Xana say, "Someone is here." Then she heard a male voice say, "It's okay, I'm here to help you." She describes this as a weird tone, not calming and not reassuring. She said she called her roommates, but she did not get a response. After seeing the man, she locked herself in her room and she described the man as being a man wearing a mask, covering his mouth and parts of his forehead, and an all-black outfit. Now, as this timeline goes on, we do have multiple interviews with Dylan, and certain things change. The big outline of the story did not change, but certain details changed. So let's talk about that. 4 days later, the same story is told, except for this man had bushy eyebrows and he was carrying something. 18 days later, it changes a little bit the description of someone. He's wearing all black, boots, black pants, and black long sleeves. And at this point in the timeline of the interviews, Bryan Kohberger is arrested. 183 days after her first interview, her statement does change a little. She says now that she woke up to music and Kaylee and Murphy dancing. She heard Murphy barking and Kaylee singing. And she says she heard this on the second floor, which is where the kitchen and the living room is. She said she heard Kaylee and Murphy go up the stairs. Then she heard that male voice say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And that male voice was going to Kaylee. She really is adamant that it was Kaylee, and she heard Kaylee crying in the second story bathroom, which again is where the kitchen and the living room is. At this time, she is showed a picture of Kohberger, or she's already viewed a picture because his arrest had happened, and she said she really does not know if that is the person who did it. She gives all of these testimonies and all of these statements saying she does not remember. She does not remember because it's fuzzy. She does not remember because she was asleep. She does not remember because she had had beverages. And she states that multiple times. I want to take a moment here to say I am not blaming Dylan at all. I am not a professional in trauma. I'm not a professional in psychology. I am not blaming these two surviving roommates. Could be completely truthful to what she knows and what she believes. But, however, I do think there is no possible way that a lot of her testimony is true. And like I said, she probably isn't lying She's probably just remembering and recalling what she knows. And this is why I think her story cannot be true. One, the placement of Kaylee. She says that Kaylee was on the second story, and she's very adamant that she hears Kaylee crying and that Kaylee is on the second story. Well, then how did she get back upstairs? Because Kaylee was found upstairs. So that piece, I think she just is recalling different, or it wasn't Kaylee, it was Xana. Something happened here. It doesn't make logical sense that Kaylee was on the second story and all of this happened. A lot of people think that it's Xana, but if Xana did happen to go up a couple of stairs or was there in that kitchen, it doesn't make logical sense that he chased her to her room, because that pool table would be knocked over, there would be more destruction, and there would be a lot more noise. I don't know. You tell me. That's just my observation. Also, I do want to look into the phone records here because I think that also doesn't make a lot of logical sense. Dylan first reports that she went to bed at 3:20. And maybe this is true, but we do know that she was up at 3:51 because she created a contact in her phone. And that is from her phone records. That did happen. Dylan says after she saw this man that she went into a panic and started calling her roommates. She states that she called Bethany, which what we believe is that Bethany is downstairs sleeping. But from the phone records, it shows that Bethany called Dylan first at 4:19 when Bethany was supposed to be sleeping, and also Dylan was supposed to be sleeping or calling the other roommates, something going on there. Bethany did call her first. Also, Dylan and Bethany's statements both say that they slept most of the morning, but what we see in the phone records is that they did not. They were up a lot. Phone records are pretty active all night long, from Indeed to Instagram to creating videos, editing videos, even taking photos. Now, we do not know what all was behind this, but we do know that their phones were active all night long, other than some very big gaps. And let's talk about that, because there's one from 4:30 to 7:30, 9:04 to 10 a.m., and 8 to 10. Honestly, it's very, very active. From everything, this was a very, very active home all night because they all get home at 2. They chat, they eat, they take Murphy out. Dylan creates a contact in her phone at 3:51. Kaylee is dancing and singing with Murphy at around 4. And Xana is getting her DoorDash around 4. So it seems like what we were told that all of these people were sleeping is not true at all. They were pretty much awake. We got this narrative that they were all attacked in their sleep and they were all sleeping all night, but that is not true. I'm going to continue this in the next part where I talk about Bethany's statements and her police interview, so we're going to get all into that. But what do you think about Dylan's statements? Please be kind in the comments. We are all human. We all make mistakes. We all do things. So please be kind to me and the surviving roommates and everybody else. Just be kind. See you in the next part.